Fire up the tentacles. I'll get the croissants loaded.
All right, we're ready. They're ready. They're not ready. They're not ready, but we're
They're
ready.
definitely not ready.
So Pierre, I made a PowerPoint for this.
Damn, man. Like, did you get images, videos, B-roll?
No, God damn it. Don't elevate their expectations that high. It's just some shitty PowerPoint that I did.
I mean, usually with the PowerPoint, there's like some visual elements as well, but okay.
Sure.
Sorry.
I put icons in. There's little stick men and stick women in there. What do you want from me?
I totally crossed the boundaries. Now everyone's expecting you to have this beautifully colored PowerPoint.
Well, here we go with now my amazing PowerPoint. So ladies and gents, we're going to be talking about the psychology of jealousy and obsession and stalking. And originally what I was thinking was going along the lines of like exploring what's already been done in the literature and exploring the different theories. And then I did that a little bit and I thought that's interesting. And then I was like, well, what would I say? Just with as little of, just what would you say? Just somebody just throws at you in a Q&A, how would you answer? And narcissistically, I found my answer much more interesting.
Of course. It always is. Your own answer is 10 times better than anyone else's all the time.
I heard it in my own head and I was like, whoever that guy is, he's so fucking clever. I mean, that is it's beautiful.
So may I ask, what exactly would that answer be?
I'm glad you did ask, Pierre. Let me see if this works. If I go like this and then I put our heads, make them small. We have small heads.
Ooh, dude, there's images here. This is beautiful, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe it is. So I read all the literature. No, I didn't read all the literature. There's tons on jealousy, obsession, stalking. There is so much. And there's so many different, there's like a behavioralist view, there's a psychoanalytic view, and so on. So I was like, what take would I have that would be something a little bit different? And then I was like, my God, it's hierarchy. When do people get jealous? Why do they get jealous? So the first thing that we all have to do is nowadays we use jealousy and envy interchangeably. But strictly speaking, envy, I'm going to stay with social hierarchy for this. Envy, Pierre, is when I am envious of your social status. I'm envious of your looks. I'm envious of your material wealth, and you're higher on the social totem pole than I am. Jealousy actually is only really ever about sexual access. I can only ever really be jealous when my access to my significant other sexually is threatened. That's the difference between envy and jealousy. So why is social hierarchy the hidden factor? We're so used to talking about the subject in terms of jealousy and envy, and these words, they culminate meaning over time, you know, and you end up with these expectations. So I was like, okay, what's jealousy really? If you do emotional literacy to jealousy, what lies behind jealousy? Fear, shame, humiliation, perhaps even dread, terror of loss. And then I was thinking, but that's all about social hierarchy. So social hierarchy is the hidden component for jealousy, obsession, and stalking. And there's 5 parts to this, which I'll go through. The key things for everybody to understand is that as you go up in your social status, you feel good. That's like when you're feeling high, when you're feeling happy, when life is working. I'm not asking you to just accept this. I'm not trying to run a cult here. Test the theory. It's not a theory, it's a hypothesis. My hypothesis is that it's all social hierarchy. Test the hypothesis. When your state goes down, what's happening in terms of your social hierarchical position? When your state goes up and you're feeling good, is it not because you contributed? You did something for the tribe, you taught something, it was recognized, you were seen. Typically, it's status and hierarchy. As we go up, we experience pleasure because that's life. We're now further into the tribe, so we're safer. As we go down the social hierarchy, we experience pain. With me so far?
Okay. Yeah, got it.
This is where this is going to piss people off. You're going to love this, but it's going to wind people up. The reason it's going to wind people up is it destroys a lot of our more romantic notions about what love is. And there's even a romantic narrative that's developed around heartache and obsession.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows I'm into bachata music. It's a style of music and dancing from the Dominican Republic. And the song, the theme of all the songs, I can't remember the Spanish word right now, but it translates as longing. You're sad, you're longing, and you're obsessed. That's what it's happy music, but it's heartache music. And you're jealous. Jealousy is a key component. I mean, the songs are called jealousy, obsession, heartache. That's the literal names of the songs. So jealousy is you actually sliding down the social hierarchy totem pole. And instead of jealousy, think of it as hierarchy burn. This is where people are going to get upset with me, because it's actually not that romantic. It's not that cute. All it is fear of loss of status. When you have a partner in this world, and I'm not saying it's right or I like it, but the way it works is you have high status. We're both single men, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we both know that we're lower status for it in the eyes of the tribe, not in our eyes, but in the eyes of the tribe. Would you say that's fair?
Sure. Yeah, we can go with that. Yeah.
So when you're jealous, you're perceiving the loss, the potential loss of your partner, primarily sexually, to another person. Even when you're at an age, you're in the old people's home, and you're at an age where the sexual factor isn't that high, it's still symbolically about sex more than about love. How can you be jealous if it's love? Like if you love somebody and then they want to go and hang out with somebody else, well, apparently you love them, so what's the big deal? So it can't be love. It can't be romance. It doesn't logically compute that jealousy is about love. Jealousy has to be about sexual. And it can only function in a culture where you are supposed to have one partner. It can only function in a culture where you're supposed to be monogamous. So when you have jealousy, you're actually being burnt. Like everybody watching this has experienced what I'm calling hierarchy burn. So you feel you're dropped down the hierarchy. Your girl is with another guy because he's higher in social status. He's taller. He's more handsome. He's got the nice neck tattoo.
Yeah. Right.
Whatever. So that hurts. Same for the girls. Exactly the same. It's not like, oh no, women don't process sex. It's not about, yes, it is. It's about sexual possession, and it's about hierarchy and status, because a lack of status in a tribal society equals death. It's death. Symbolically. You're not actually just going to be killed because your boyfriend left you, but...
So to add on that theory, it does make sense, because you only really do feel jealous when the partner represents themselves in a way that is already higher up. For example, if the partner owns a giant mansion and they approach your girlfriend or whatever, then it's like, oh, you're threatened. But if the same person was like super broke, dressed terribly, and they looked like total dork, and they started approaching your girl, you wouldn't feel as threatened. So it's only when a person approaching your girlfriend or vice versa is when you really feel threatened, and when they look like they're at least higher on the hierarchy.
Exactly. And if they're not higher on the hierarchy, you won't feel jealousy, because it's hierarchical burn. The burn is you literally slipping down the totem pole and trying to hold on and going, ow, my hands, it burns. And it burns with what? With shame. What emotions burn? Shame, humiliation, jealousy, lust, passion, burn. When we speak of them lyrically, poetically, Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire, it burns. He said love is a fiery ring, but he's speaking euphemistically. That's a song about sex. That's sexual desire that burns with a fiery ring. It's sexual, and it's obsessional. So death is then felt. Anything that moves us towards death and away from our survivability is experienced internally at an emotional and a somatic level, as pain, as suffering, as torment. I was listening to a bachata track today when I was training, and I'd never translated the lyrics in my head before. And today I was like, my God, these lyrics are horrible. The guy's singing, I have a cancer of love in me, and I want the torment, the tumor of this obsession cut from me. I was like, damn, that is fucking gross. But when we're obsessed, it feels like that. It feels like you're holding something inside of you that's eating you up inside. the verbiage we use. That's what cancer does. It eats you up.
So there's a very ambiguous line between passion and obsession, right? And the cultures that would praise the idea of passion could be basically borderline obsessive at that point.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say that when we experience love in that passionate first blush, first 6 to 12 months way, it actually isn't really love. It's written into the source code is fear, and it's the fear of hierarchical burn. And I can't prove this to people, but I can demonstrate the validity of this hypothesis to them by asking a simple question. Hasn't everybody in the first 3 months of a relationship with somebody they really cared about had the dream, the nightmare that that person left them, that that person got back with their ex, or that person let them down or cheated on them? We've all had it. When clients come to me and say, oh, I had a dream about my boyfriend and he did this, or my girlfriend or my wife did this, that to me is a sign of love, or to use the psychological terminology to keep it cleaner, strong, intimate attachment. The stronger my intimate attachment is for this woman who I love, then the greater my fear is, because it's a gamble. I don't know that she's going to raise my status, but I hope that she will. That's a horribly unromantic thing to say, and provocative as well. I'm hoping that this intelligent, beautiful woman raises my status and the status of my tribe and the status of my children. It's not that narcissistic or psychopathic. It makes sense. You want to survive, right? You want your kids to survive. Well, then the woman that you bring needs to be high status, however you interpret that. But it's being interpreted in the central nervous system, in the hormones, in the guts, in the DNA, if that makes sense.
Yes. So according to your theory, it sounds a lot more external than it is internal.
Right.
What do you think about the idea of the innate primal human fear of just rejection and the fear of loss as well? Do you think that's also tied into something external, or do you think that's just something that humans are programmed to fear deeply? Like if you lose something, does that tie into something outside of yourself, or is it just like what we're programmed to feel?
This is something I figured out today. So I've got to go back in my mind, and I figured out that bit, and now I can't quite remember it. It was something like, if I perceive, because it's solipsistic, I don't really know what the tribe is going to find high value. Without the tribe, there's no hierarchy. Without the tribe, there's no status. So I need to perceive that the tribe is perceiving or will perceive, because it's a gamble. So I have to place a bet on the stock, on my status stock in the tribe, that it's high value. So I need to perceive, if it's a loss, then I need to feel that it diminishes me in the eyes of the tribe, which leads towards the sensation of death, because I'm losing my status in the tribe, which could ultimately end in my actual physical death, or it would have done in evolutionary times. So
to play Lucifer's advocate, let's say if there was a hermit, like living in a log cabin in the middle of the mountains in Siberia or whatever, and he does have a significant other, maybe it's another guy or girl, doesn't matter, and they fall in love, and they've lived together for like 13 years, and then they leave. So in theory, this person's already living outside of the social hierarchy, and he's removed himself from it, but he would definitely still feel, I'm sure, sort of pain or loss if that person left.
Well,
I get you.
Right. Not quite, but it is going to force me to admit something that I don't really want to admit. Okay. So obviously the social hierarchy thing was popularized recently by Jordan Peterson, who I've been very critical of, but this idea I really love. I was hoping today to have the chance to say to somebody, can you please edit out of the last podcast that me and you did, the section where we're talking about the Batman and the Joker, because Joker's coming out soon. I was like, make that a 5-minute clip, put it out there, maybe people watch it, because we actually said some good shit on that whole Batman Joker intimate relationship thing. And then I was thinking about that, and then a Jordan Peterson video pops up in my recommended videos where he's talking about the psychology of the Joker, and I've never seen this one before. So I played it, and it's a long time ago, And he actually only talks about Heath Ledger as the Joker for 2 minutes. And then he starts to talk about what humans are evolved for. And he was saying, what's our natural environment? What was our natural environment evolutionarily? Because for a certain mammal, it would be trees. For certain mammals, it would be the savannah. For fish, it would be the sea. And he said this. This is evolutionary psychology, by the way, which is a dodgy subject because you're blending biology and psychology in a really difficult way. So take this poetically, but I do think it's a useful idea. For humans, our environment is people. And you will never escape that. It's in your DNA. So that hermit still at a genetic level cares about his hierarchical status because he can't just see log cabin and trees. He can't just see whatever you see in Siberia, snow. That not at the emotional level, he's still concerned about his social status. Still. Yeah. Even if he doesn't want to be, it's because he and I and you are evolved for clan, tribe mentality and for hierarchies. We are hardwired for that. Hardwired. So if I was raised in some sick psychological experiment, completely alone in a white environment, sorry, when I say white, I mean like I don't.
Not like Caucasian white.
I mean like Caucasian, like in a white man's world, like you were. I mean in a bright white antiseptic, purely clinical environment, and a little trapdoor opens and food comes through. I would have problems and I wouldn't function as a normal human, but you would still find evidence of hierarchical seeking behavior in me because it's that far inside of us.
Okay. By the way, your screen is very small, Richard. I can't see those glistening eyes of yours. But with that being said, how much do you think of it?
Hello.
So do you think it is about, what percentage of it do you think is purely external? So what you're claiming is primarily these particular human emotions, such as jealousy and envy, are all external situations that will influence how you feel. Do you think that there are elements of just things that are just within the individual by itself without any external influence that makes you feel that particular way?
Sure, because there's interpretation. So what ultimately counts here, like we're now straying into philosophy from psychology and biology straight into philosophy. I can't actually know what the tribe perceives. I can't. I can only think I know. So solipsistically, I'm creating a map of, if I bring a girl home and she looks like this, it's going to communicate this. If I bring a girl home and she has a degree in this, then it's going to, or not necessarily to my family, to my literal biological tribe, but to my people, to my social environment. It's all tribal. It's all tribal consciousness. So yes, there's an element of interpretation. That's what my central nervous system is to assist me in doing. That's what the reticular activation system is there to help me to do. The mind, the ego is there to distort, delete, and generalize information coming in to fit a predetermined narrative. But these emotions seem to be the central theme. The bachata singers are singing about love and their pain because emotion is so compelling. It's such a strong call to action that's all you can see and all you can feel is the pain. And also it would make shit music if they were like, oh, I lost my social status because the girl I liked with the big bottom has gone away.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, okay. So if we look, so according to the theory of jealousy being a result of loss of a particular thing, and that loss would symbolize your decline on the hierarchy. What if you were to lose something that wasn't exactly another person that represents your status, but rather could be, I don't know, this is dark, but like say your child, or like a product you own that meant a lot to you, that your grandfather gave you, this ring that he had when he was in World War II, sort of a thing, and you lose that. Is that idea of loss tied into something external in the hierarchy, or is it just only applied to jealousy?
I have a deliciously psychopathic response to that.
Let's hear it. The more psychopathic, the better.
Oh, yeah. So children are the end. That's your genetic end. And that's all you're here to do. So if you lose a child, that's arguably the worst thing, because the child is the point. Everything else is symbolic. The psychopathic element of what I want to say is, including your partner is symbolic. Louis C.K. did a great stand-up bit about this, being like, once you have kids, nothing else matters. You don't matter when you have kids. Your wife, your husband, they don't matter. It's like, I don't really care about you anymore. I have these people. This is what matters. So the wife, your wife, wonderful. You love her, adore her, all these feelings, fantastic. To lose her, you'll lose status. You lose a child. What do you lose? A child. You lost a child. Okay, the child has status, sure, but that's completely secondary to the fact that that's the point. Like we have no other. I'm not saying that I believe this. I'm saying that biology tells us. Like the selfish gene theory is, I am just a wank sock for my DNA, and my point is to carry it on. The watch, the uncomfortable hunk of metal that your grandfather held up his ass during World War II, so on and so forth. Bruce Willis. What was the film?
Pulp Fiction, I think.
Pulp Fiction. I put this up my ass before the podcast just to make the
Wonderful. Can I have it?
Yes, you can. I'm going to sell it on eBay for tons. That would be, in psychoanalytic terms, Butch, Bruce Willis's character, this extremely traumatized and violent man, probably brain damaged. The watch is now a fetish. That's what, in psychoanalytic terms, of fetish. This is the last remaining piece of his father that he has. Plus, it's also part of his core value system that his father endured such pain and suffering. He was a hero, was a real man. He was a butch, macho man. And now I'm a boxing man. Da, da, da. It's part of his. He loses the watch. The watch is a fetish. So yes, it's much less powerful, but it's external. It brings emotion, but it's the emotion that's key. Because let me see if I can get this back on here. We add to stream. So the torment is a call to action, and what that leaves the person with is a question, a really hard riddle to solve. And where have you gone?
Bye.
Come back. Bye, Pierre. Bye. You sounded just like my nephew then. Bye.
I'm really jealous that you were on the screen alone. Where's my attention?
It's a status thing. So the person who becomes obsessed, when we're talking about the psychology of obsession here, actually has gone into a state of intense pain. Now, I'm not saying, you say something like this and then the comments will be, oh, so you're saying stalkers should be felt. No, look, we need a nuanced understanding. Let's all pretend that we're all psychologists and philosophers here. Let's take ourselves out of our story and just seek to understand. Why would somebody be so jealous that they move into the area of obsession? And when does it become a serious mental health issue? The person is in agony. Understand, they are feeling the burn of the hierarchical loss. When you reject somebody, that always creates obsession. That's just a human thing. Like if you push somebody away, if you terminate it with somebody, they'll become obsessed with you. Have you personally ever experienced that, Pierre?
Not to the point of stalking, but I definitely have some obsessive people, or at least, they are acting fairly obsessive in my life, but definitely in the past with my unhealthy relationships and endeavors with people that are, on the spectrum of what you specialize in. And
Right.
They were definitely along the lines of obsessive. I looked at that point, and it totally makes sense. The rejection breeding the obsession. You can actually see this as an example, not only with people, but also what fuels people for their life path and career. For example, like a lot of actors are just consistently rejected all of their life, and they become obsessed with the notion of succeeding in the industry. And
Right.
whoever else, like, doesn't have to be actors. But I mean, I guess I could even apply it to my case too, being rejected in many forms of my life, and being obsessed with the idea of actually trying to get somewhere with it too. Um, but yeah, it definitely applies to people as well. But I guess if people, you know what, I've seen both sides. Like, there's quite a few people I think that would react obsessive towards me, but back in the day, with my boundaries fairly dissolved, there were behaviors of mine that I could even classify as obsessive, but I didn't realize it at the time too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been obsessed with people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was like the age that it happens. So like
Yeah.
high school, fresh out of high school sort of a thing, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I think this is the essence of trauma bonding. You know, when I'm talking about trauma bonding,
Yeah. Yeah.
the pain, the intensity of the pain that it causes, the brain just makes a real simple. The brain is like, we'd love to think that we're these highly clever, you know, decision-making animals, and it's really just a series of wires. The pain creates a really strong, thick wire or neural pathway between that person and pain, and then your brain goes, "Oh, they significant. Why? Because much pain." Like that's
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't even
You
make
know,
sense, but
but yeah, there was a brief 2 sentence thing that Jordan Peterson said in one of his lectures, and it was like, pain is the most real thing that a human can experience. It's one of the things that we can't deny usually. You know, it's more overwhelmingly powerful than actual joy or happiness. So when you do have that trauma bond through pain with somebody, or you think you have it with somebody, that sensation is more real than sharing joy, according to the theory, with someone too.
I mean, I think Jordan Peterson is a pain fetishist. I think he's way too into
Probably.
suffering. Yeah,
Do you, do you think do you think he's into leather and spandex?
I think. Did you ever see the South Park thing that was about Mel Gibson, and it was taking the piss out of Mel Gibson because he always had himself killed in films? If he
Okay.
directed a movie and he was in it, he'd be executed horribly.
Oh,
And then
okay.
they were mocking him. There was like this little Mel Gibson running around going, kill me, twist my nipples," and you know,
Oh
wanting
my
to be tortured.
God, man.
Something
Sure.
like that.
Okay.
But I agree 1000% with the idea that pain is more compelling than pleasure, because back to my horrible, unromantic, psychopathic hypothesis about what jealousy really is, as biological entities, we must survive. Pain is the signal from the
Right.
body
Yeah.
that death is imminent.
Hmm.
Pleasure just means, yo, it's all good. Keep doing this. This bit of the savannah is great. These berries are delicious. This person you're mating with seems cool. Eat some more of these mushrooms. They give us funny dreams. It's all good, which is great. And your survivability goes up because now you're happy and you're full of food and you're safe and you're mating and you're making a tribe. Great. That's good for your survivability. But pain has to be more compelling because you only get it once. You can have sex again and again and again, but the saber-toothed tiger can only eat you once. It's like a very so
Yes.
the
Yeah.
pain has to be more compelling for us. Unfortunately, I myself don't want to fetishize, because he actually says that suffering is good for its own sake, and I would say that's observably not true. If you specialize in trauma, if you like, trauma doesn't make people better. Pain doesn't make people better. It twists them. Nietzsche incorrectly said, "Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger." But the Joker had it right. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stranger. You become eccentric and
Yeah.
twisted in
Yeah.
response to pain.
Yeah, with the idea of pain, it's like, if there's a person that ends up going through the amount of trauma that puts them in a position of pain that's just so extreme, their standard of what makes them feel so called alive is way on the top of the scale. So then at that point, how do you reconcile with living your life without that extreme sensation, you know, guiding what you find as what being alive is, or what joy is, or sort of a thing, you know what I mean?
Followers of Spartan Life Coach, Pierre's talking to you, all of you who are obsessed with getting into relationships, all of us who are obsessed with getting into relationships with abusive types. Pierre just summed it up. It's that's it. It's like if you're used to pain, of course you're numb, and you will seek extreme relationships with highly extreme and very confrontational and pain-inducing personality types.
Let me, add on to that. Like a good majority of my life, it's only until the last maybe year or so I reconciled with all of that. But my standard of relationship was like a K-drama. You know, it was sort of this extreme dramatic narrative that you would find in a film that only somebody could write. And I unintentionally seeked it out, but also intentionally, where I found myself in situations where we're all screaming at each other. The guy's threatening to kill himself, the girl is like threatening to hurt herself, and then you have this dialogue that is so incredibly extreme that your standard of what makes you feel alive and what makes you feel joyful is so heavily skewed and diluted to the point where if you want to live a normal life where you're sitting on the computer drinking a cup of coffee, it's incredibly boring. So it's like the amount of trauma and pain is like up here, and the screaming narratives are up here, and then just doing something real simple and minimal is down here. So then why would you even bother staying down there when you know that there's a world outside of that?
And this is why CPTSD diagnoses overlap or are misdiagnosed for borderline, because borderline is a risk-seeking personality disorder. People talk about all the other elements of it. It's like, don't forget how much borderlines love risk, how much they love to be in dangerous situations, how much they love the drama and even the pain. And you just be like, well, doesn't that go against your hypothesis that humans are essentially pleasure seeking and want to avoid pain? But as we just discussed, trauma warps. Suffering is not character building. Pain doesn't make in and of itself make you a better person. It could do with guidance. Like if you had a strong guide there, they could make it make sense. But without a guide, it just turns you odd. It just turns you into or it could turn you into a pain fetishist.
Right. I mean, this goes on to, like, if you were to look at really successful, let's say, entertainers for the sake of conversation, their standard of what's enjoyable to them are private jets, thousands of groupies, being on stage, thousands of people, red carpet walks, where that level of enjoyment is so far beyond the average population that how do you expect that person to have a mentally stable frame of mind to enjoy their life and not try to, grasp onto anything bigger than that? After a private jet, where's there to go? And that goes with trauma. If the private jet was trauma, where do you go from there?
Well, and one could argue that level of success, it's not like, no, I don't think any psychologist worth their salt would say, okay, you have nothing, you're miserable. You have something, you're happier. You have this much more, you're that much happier. The tests have been done. It's not true to say the more, the happier, the happier, the happier at certain levels of success. It's clearly traumatic, including the jet, including all of the things you just mentioned. All of it could actually be quite traumatic. There are things that you're supposed to love and supposed to enjoy. But as you know, I've worked with quite a few celebrities, and actually it's a case of saying, hey, do you know that you really love sitting in and reading a book on your own because you're quite introverted and creative? Well, am I allowed to do that? Oh, yeah. You could totally just go to I've told people, just go to the woods. Just, fly out, go into the woods, call me in a few days, tell me how you feel. Like, I feel better now. I'm like, well, there you go. But they think they've got to be, the classic conundrum. They've got to be out in LA snorting coke and meeting people. I'm supposed to be networking all the time. Some people can do it, but they're a minority. Most people can't. And it's not a sign of weakness. The sign of weakness or twistedness would be the people who get addicted to doing that and who really love it, because it's not natural. We're tribal creatures. We're not supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be on my own with like 3 prostitutes and a bag of drugs looking out the window going, ha ha, fuck everyone else. And that's not, we think that's the way, that's success. But that's just the insanity of hyper materialistic consumer capitalism. You'd actually be a lot happier sat around a fire with your mates, hanging out and telling stupid stories and having a laugh.
Yeah,
you would be happier.
That's actually partly why I decided to move so much quicker to Prague in the Czech Republic. I mean, it's often looked at as a city or a country that no one exactly it's not the first on people's list, sort of a deal. And going from LA right when a video started popping off and all this attention came, it was just like I saw what that was like. I met a bunch of people in the industry where everyone's trying to sell themselves and portray this luxurious lifestyle. The one YouTuber has 3 million views, while this guy has this, promising whatever and whatever. And I felt so incredibly isolated and empty being there. Being here, just meeting two or three good friends, going to a pub with one or two beers and talking about life without any of this networking, selling yourself bullshit was more fulfilling than the last 6 years of me trying to hustle my way to get the metaphorical private jet sort of a thing. So I found it a lot earlier, and I found it a lot more rewarding to live with a lot less with people that I actually can trust and speak to, as opposed to, you know, 3 prostitutes, a bag of drugs on a private jet. And that could be enjoyable too. Who knows?
Well, if you had 2 bags of drugs and 6 prostitutes, we just got the numbers wrong. That's all it is.
You're right. And 6 private jets.
6 private jets. Yeah. There it is. Now I feel good. I think all it is you had the sensitivity and emotional intelligence to tune into your central nervous system and go, what's going on here? Does this make me feel good? Does this make me feel good? Okay, I'm going to fucking do that then. Everything else is external, and it's trying to figure out what the tribe will reward you with in terms of status. But some people, unfortunately, are not smart enough to realize what's false and what isn't. That isn't your tribe. That isn't your tribe. That isn't status. I don't know what that is, but that's not, do you know what I'm saying? But to some people, hyper extroverted, they might be like psychopaths. They could be exploded psychopaths. There's all kinds of issues. They might genuinely feel like this is the best thing imaginable. I can't imagine it getting any better than this. But they're not well. They're not like, these are humans who in times gone by, we would have all gathered around in a circle and hugged them and hummed for a while.
Right. So, I mean, we can tie this back into envy, where it's like, okay, the person that has the 6 private jets, the idea of envy is that 90% of the population looks at that person with their own little toy cartwheel in the air and be like, that's what I want. I want the prostitutes and the bag of drugs. That I'm really envious of this person living this lifestyle. And where do you think that comes from? I mean, the person does not have a frame of understanding or the range of experiences to compare that to. And why do they think that that is higher up on the hierarchy, which it kind of technically sort of is, right?
It depends on how you're filtering, and it depends on the cultural framework that you're coming from. I read an article a long time ago, 7 years ago, 2012. It was about Facebook, and it said Facebook runs on envy. Envy is the fuel of Facebook. That was before the big Instagram models. That was before idiots were renting Ferraris for the day and taking slow-mo shots with them and renting mansions and pretending to live in them. That was before all of that. Envy is a very provocative feeling. But it's a provocative feeling because it evokes hierarchical burn. Because if you have more than me, if I'm not very bright, just being blunt, or I don't have particularly good boundaries, or I'm very young, I don't know that everything you have is fake. Or even if it's real, I don't know. I have no way of conceptualizing that other than to go, well, let's imagine we're the same age. If I'm the same age as you and you have that stuff and I don't, that could make me mentally ill. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I've read the research. There's plenty of published research on this. It's conclusive. It will make me mentally ill. Guaranteed.
There's a paradoxical effect when it comes to posting, riding ATVs with somebody in a bikini in the back, or, a Chippendale in the back, depending on your preference. But why is it that it supposedly makes you feel envy, but so many people are responsive and they like it? Where it's like, it's not even just straight up hate half the time, where it's people actually praising the person for living that lifestyle. Envy, I assume, is supposed to be like, I reject it entirely. Fuck this guy because So why is it that we're still like double tap on these big booties on Instagram?
Okay, I can answer that, and I think we can tie it back into the individual obsession and stalking. I would say that Instagram now, the Instagram of 2019, which is not the Instagram of 2017, it's changed.
Yeah.
Is actually to provoke stalker behaviors in people. Why? This is an outrageous statement, but I think I can back it. It's all about engagement. You and I are running a lemonade stand, and down the road, there's two 14-year-old girls, and they're running a lemonade stand, and they're selling lemonade. We were selling lemonade. Now we're only selling the idea that people need to come to the stand and stay there. So we're actually being paid on imagine they're paying by the minute. They're paying by the drink. They're paying for us. They're paying by the minute, and they can have an infinite amount of lemonade. Let's say we need to keep them there. How long is it before I go, well, Pierre, you can do tricks with cards. Can you? I know we're only supposed to be selling lemonade, mate. Would you mind just doing a trick with? And I go, do it. Engagement. Yeah, baby.
My lemonade, get it.
So it becomes about engagement. And then I'll be like, Pierre, can you do that with your shirt off? And you're like, dude, I'm here to sell them. No, come on, man. They'll stay another couple of minutes. I'll give you an extra cut, just for today. And so on and so forth until all we're doing is engaging in spectacle. And then, tomorrow will be, you'll grease me up and I'll have to wrestle a bear. And you'll be like, that people love that shit, Richie. Come on. You want to make money? Come on, dude. You want to make money? Get your hands dirty. So we start engaging in spectacle. So it's only about engagement. So to have people stalking is the ultimate form of engagement. I only want eyeballs on my page. I don't care whether you're contributing, whether you have a good philosophical point, whether you made your 10,000 followers feel good today and reduce their anxiety. Fuck that. I want eyeballs on the page. So you can do the worst things imaginable as long as it keeps people engaged. So I claim Instagram is deliberately trying to provoke stalker and obsessive-like behaviors in people. The research is done. It actually ties in with a point I had on one of my beautifully prepared slides. Can I pull a slide up?
Yes. Can I go to the bathroom, Richard?
Yeah, you may. You go to the bathroom. Nobody else is allowed. Just Pierre.
Please keep Richard entertained, everybody.
I might sing them a song, so don't take too long. That rhymed then. I might sing them a song. Don't take too long. When you come back, I'll be in a thong. Everybody pay attention. Thongs on. Okay. So this part is important as far as those of you came here to understand about obsession. It can start to end in serious mental health issues. This is my hypothesis. This is not published research. This is Richard made this up. But if you find it interesting and useful, you can use it as a model, but just don't write it in your psychology research paper because you get a bad grade. Solipsism means that it's like a philosophical standpoint that says, I don't believe there's anything outside of my reality. There's only stuff inside of my head. If a person is behaving solipsistically, then we could say that person has a solipsistic worldview, which is how I mean it here. They're only being self-referential. They're not looking for external information to validate anything that they believe. They slip into delusion. The person is now in a state of cognitive dissonance. They believe that they love you and that you love them, and they can't let go of that thought. So it creates cognitive dissonance, which creates more pain. At a certain point, some people slip into from solipsism to delusion, we slip into erotomania. I'm going to stop sharing this screen because I need to share another screen. Everybody bear with me while I figure out how to do this. It's a Chrome tab. Which one is it? Erotomania. Share.
Right on time, huh?
Cool. Hello there. You're back for the erotomania part. Can you see a Wikipedia page that says erotomania? Is that what you're looking at?
Indeed, I can.
So it's listed in the DSM-5 as a subtype of delusional disorder. It's relatively uncommon paranoid condition. It is characterized by an individual's delusions of another person being infatuated with them. If I'm an erotomaniac for Pierre, my obsession is that he is obsessed with me. Now, I claim that true obsessives, stalkers, are somewhere on the scale, on the spectrum for this. It typically occurs in female patients who are shy, dependent, and sexually inexperienced. The object of the delusion is typically a male who is unattainable due to high social or financial status, marriage, or disinterest. And bearing in mind, if a man or a woman expresses disinterest, then that is perceived wrongly as being of higher social status. If somebody is disinterested and aloof, that is associated with higher social status. So we're back to social status again. The delusions of reference are common, as the erotomaniac individual often perceives that they're being sent messages. Delusions of reference are delusions where I think that Pierre is talking to me. Like he comes on and he says a funny song about a croissant, and I'm like, I thought about a croissant this morning. Oh my God, Pierre wants me to come to his house and knock on his window while he's in the shower.
But here's the thing, Richard, that's true.
That was a bad example for me to use, really. You could keep sending me croissant, but I'm a busy man. You live a long way away.
Yeah.
And okay. you're like, you're 6 stories up. I mean,
yeah, of course.
It's a lot of banging.
I was gonna say you're gonna run a marathon up these stairs for sure.
Absolutely.
So, erotomania. Okay, I can definitely relate to the situation. I've had many semi-close encounters, digitally close encounters, and for the record, I did wash my hands. In fact, I showered twice during that time. Everyone's asking if I washed my hands or not, but I washed my whole body. Good. And Erotomania, that's the name of my flat. So with Erotomania, so when I first started, after the first viral video blew up, and I was a pretty isolated person at this time. I was just happy to meet people and make friends online, sort of a deal. And I was really tired of what the apparent influencer presents themselves as, or like a famous person being aloof and like ignoring people, sort of a thing. So what I did was the complete opposite. I'm gonna change the face of the entertainer thing. So I was like knee deep in terms of connecting with everybody. I'm talking about messaging every single DM on my lunch break at work. I would voice chat pretty much anybody that I could, reply to everyone. And obviously you can only do that for so long. But there were a few specific incidences, the one in particular that I can still remember, where because I would respond so often to her, and she was in a position that maybe could be a little more mentally unstable, or at least, from a different frame of understanding. I don't even know if she's unstable. She could think of things differently, right? She thought because I was responding to her in a way that was showing affection and I had feelings for her and whatever else, when in reality that wasn't the case. It was just me trying to genuinely connect with the fan base, sort of a deal. So this thing kind of escalated more and more, and I should have actually taken note of the amount of packages that I was getting weekly. They got bigger and bigger. And
they knew your home address?
PO box. I'm stupid, but not that dumb, But I'm stupid enough to even open the packages. I mean, who knows? Like some anthrax up in there, the chocolate chip cookie or whatever. But I mean, like, this was only like maybe 2 years ago, and I just took it as what it is at face value. I felt really gracious and I really appreciated the amount of stuff that was sent to me, and I would, and I would open them on live streams and be like, thank you so much. And this is from that person. And this is like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then there was a certain point, like 2 months after that, as I was preparing for my move to Prague and I had some emotional stuff to wrap up. And I started like taking a break from social media. So I stopped replying to things as much. She took that as if I like broke up with her in a relationship. I abandoned her, and I I wasn't interested in her anymore, because in her eyes, she thought that we had something like that. And that definitely was not the case. I appreciated her as a person, but at that moment, I had to really set my boundaries and take a step back and realize I can't just get supposedly connected with every single person that I talk to, because it's like a few incidences since then, Richard, stop laughing at me.
How
I'm a
much
young,
acid?
naive boy.
How much acid did you take in your acid period? It
See,
just blew
look,
your boundaries apart, right? It just blew the
yeah,
boundaries away.
that's I might look like a vampire, you know, but I have a very bohemian hippie side somewhere in the rib cage where I just want free love for everybody. I want everyone to merge with each other into one. But obviously, in third dimensional human constructs of our society does not allow for such behavior to ensue.
Mm-mm.
And so ever since then, like I had to really step back and be careful of who I even reply to, even if I
Right.
send one message. I
Yeah.
don't know where that person is mentally to think that that message was a declaration of my love and a proposal, you know?
Well, I think the thing with social media as well, like especially with Instagram, I could be following name a handsome actor.
Richard Grannon.
Oh, too handsome. I don't want to melt the screen by talking of
Let's go with Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Oh, Morgan Freeman. Ever since I was a little boy, I loved Morgan Freeman. And so if I can see Morgan Freeman and Pierre is there right next to Morgan Freeman, right next to Ellen DeGeneres or Jimmy Kimmel or Louis C.K. or some other famous person, you have the same status as them. The difference is these famous people don't answer me, but you do. So to you, you're like, well, I'm a YouTube guy doing my thing in my own little way. But to them, perceptually, you could live on planet famous person.
Right.
Like I have stalkers, and I have people who send me packages and emails. And one of the consistent themes in the emails is blurring between conversations with me and conversations with really like properly famous people. And it's apparent from the email structure, they can't tell the difference. I am not the same as Anthony Robbins in any sense, but to that individual, I am, because I come through the same phone screen. And this is the boundary blurring effect that the internet is having. YouTube fame is real fame. I told you about this book I'm writing, right? And when I go to a publisher, the first thing they're going to ask me is, what is your social media following? And if I have 150,000 or 500,000, I'm going to get a better deal than if I have 500. That's before they've read the book now. That's book publishing. If book publishers don't care, and book publishers, where you'd think like, oh, surely the last bastion of intellectual integrity. Fuck that. They're trying to sell something, and they want to know, if I sell Pierre's book and he's got 1 million subscribers, well, maybe like 10% will buy it, and therefore we can do these sales projections, and that's all that matters. So internet fame has now, well, not quite, but it's encroaching into the real fame space, isn't it? I think that's part of the reason why you get such a strong response.
They actually did a study where they interviewed a lot of younger Gen Z, that generation, and they said that first of all, a lot of them just want to be famous YouTubers, and that's just like what their job career of choice is. But they also asked them like something about the fame dynamic for YouTubers, and they almost view YouTubers more famous than actual traditional industry standard celebrities like Morgan Freeman and whoever else, where if anything, they actually place the YouTuber social media star even higher because they're more relatable at this point. They feel like they actually know the YouTuber as opposed to Morgan Freeman. I mean, he's God and everything, but you know.
Well, isn't there? I mean, this is slightly off topic, but I think people find this interesting. Isn't there an effect that we've seen from the 60s, 70s, 80s to now, where our actors are just getting older and older, and we just don't want any new ones in? Like Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Cruise are playing action roles.
Yeah.
God bless them, fit men, good-looking guys, very professional, well done. I'm just saying, in 1985, it was Sly Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were under the age of 30.
Yeah.
You're like, we're holding on now. So
Yeah.
that's the industry's fault, because they're not engaging Gen Z.
Well,
give Gen Z their actors and actresses, please.
I actually saw a video yesterday on how YouTube is purposely pushing actual celebrities on the algorithm and whatever else. And turns out Google is actually has $100 million invested in hiring actual actors, famous actors like Will Smith. I think there's Jack Black. There's a few others that I can't remember, but they're actually getting paid to become YouTubers at this point because the attention now for like longevity when it comes to sustaining yourself as a famous person is becoming a YouTuber now. And a lot of the YouTube audience is kind of like the YouTube audience is surprisingly kind of smart and they can see through what is a manufactured thing and what isn't. So they see like maybe Will Smith, or there were some other ones I can't remember, but they're like, "Yo, this is kind of you. We know what you're doing here. You're just trying to like be portray and adopt the YouTube persona, being relatable while you're here on the hills in LA with a helicopter, sort of a deal." But that's where the attention is. That's where it is.
They tried that. I remember them pushing this in 2014, and it was a female stand-up comedian, and she came on YouTube and announced, "I'm going to be a YouTuber." And I was one of the YouTubers at the time who said, "You can fuck off back to your Hollywood studio. You don't get to just turn up." And she had a budget. I won't. There's no point naming her because it's mean. She had a budget, and they just dumped 40 or 50 shorts of sketches, and she got such a negative response. She was hounded off YouTube, and they just deleted the channel. But it's the arrogance of it. It was like,
who do you think you are? You know,
who the bloody hell do you think
what
you
the
are?
fuck? Like, we're not that dumb, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to the fuck, okay. I want to ask anybody that's watching right now and you, how often do you get talk show recommendations like Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or Conan recommendations on your YouTube? So there's been a lot of studies basically being done to compare what kind of videos reach the homepage of your YouTube. And it's like disproportionately 80% celebrity industry material now, where it's like actual talk shows and stuff like this, because the eyes are moving away from the actual television screen now.
Yeah.
And now it's moving back on YouTube, where they're paying YouTube to actually promote their talk show, because no one's actually watching, or less people are watching TV in the talk shows, where now the only attention they'll get is through YouTube. So then all these other celebrities, these big famous ones, they have to figure out a way to be relatable, and good luck, you know?
So are you saying that Jimmy Kimmel is actually watched more spliced up after the show on YouTube than he would be during the show on TV?
I don't know the exact statistics, but it seems to be so, only because the material is promoted so heavily on YouTube, disproportionately to actual YouTube creators. There is like a huge backlash with this. Like, a lot of YouTube creators are super pissed, because it's like, yo, YouTube, I thought it was YouTube, sort of a thing. Not
no.
No. So then you have all these industry standard people putting their fingers in the damn thing, making it rain on Google, sort of a deal. And then
I used to run a YouTube channel, and when Google took over, I think I lasted 12 months, and that was it. That you could feel the atmosphere changed on YouTube, and I think this is 2012. I've been on since 2006, and I had a whole 30,000 subscribers. But back then, for a self-defense channel, that was huge. That was a huge number of people, 100%. Because people weren't using YouTube, and it wasn't martial arts. It was this tiny niche, and they just binned me. They just went, right, that's it. You're too. It's too violent. It's too. And I was like, well, I don't get this. You're showing actual scenes of people dying on YouTube. That is happening, but I'm too violent talking about how people can defend themselves. It's definitely shifted away from being YouTube to somebody else's tube.
Yeah. I mean, so because you're technically also a YouTube celebrity, and you would be an actual celebrity in whatever generation's eyes or whoever's, have you had the response of people following your every step? Has people stalked you, sent you some cute little flowers in the PO box?
I've had a few stalking incidents. It got to the point where the last time I did a seminar in Liverpool, I had to have security there for it. And I am currently undergoing a couple of stalking situations where I'm living now. It's the psychology of being stalked is like a whole other thing, because it generates a siege mentality. You become paranoid. You're hypervigilant. It's a bad thing. But yes, I definitely have had bad experiences with people who either were erotomaniacs or was physically trying to get access to me in the real world. Yeah.
Okay. How do you begin to deal with something like that?
I just want to make a public statement that if anybody actually starts anything with me, I am a highly trained martial artist and I have CPTSD, which means I'm mad.
Yes. Yes. Do you think that it takes a certain kind of person to attract that for sort of a deal? Because I don't think I have any, at least not that I know of. I have slightly obsessive so-called quote unquote fans, but I don't think I
Yeah.
would call them stalkers, you know? So what brings those kinds of people in your life, sort of a deal? Like what
I think it's how intimate they're experiencing your digital content. And so as soon as we touch, like, being an entertainer is great. You could lift me out of a depression. You could make me laugh on a day when I'm just not feeling good at all. You know, that's actually, if I had my time again, I definitely would have gone down that route. I was very naive with psychology. In psychology, there's this effect from psychoanalysis called transference.
Mhm.
Well, transference it's because it's totally normal for completely inappropriate feelings to develop in the client-therapist relationship because it is so intimate. I'm describing to you childhood trauma in a way that nobody else ever has. I show you understanding digitally, not face-to-face. That actually hasn't happened with people I've coached face-to-face, but digitally it's happened. But it's compelling. I would find it compelling if somebody described my childhood experience to me in a way that showed that they didn't just understand it, but they'd lived it and they knew how to fix it. I'd be like, oh my God, I also would bond with that person very intensely. And I did bond very intensely with a celebrity, Patrice O'Neill, to the point, and it was very rapid. I discovered him 3 months before he died. And after his death, for the next 5 years, I couldn't say his name without crying. I was so traumatized by his death because of that kind of thing where he fed back my experience to me. And this is common, like with diehard Patrice O'Neill fans, very, very common to say, you know, nobody got it like he did. No. So if you get it, and so you could have that. Like if you started feeding, but if you see the video you did the other day on race and racism and how it made you feel, if you keep doing videos like that, you will, because you're then touching a deeper part of people. You're touching their pain. You touch their suffering, and you can help it. They'll bond with you in very intense ways.
Well, I think we briefly even spoke about this, but I used to go 10 times even deeper into these particular subjects, whether it be depression, anxiety, and other, you know, feelings of hopelessness and whatever else, which are things that I'm passionate about in terms of healing people with it or whatever. But I was approaching it in a heavily untrained way. And because these are subjects of psychology, which takes, you know, years and years of experience and learning how to maintain boundaries and, you know, getting rid of the transference or whatever, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just telling everybody what I did and how I felt, and everybody could definitely bond with my trauma in that situation. And me being only 2 years more naive than I am now, it was like opening the floodgates for a lot of mentally troubled, unstable people to lay down their trauma and bond with me to the point where their well-being was in my hands now.
Yeah.
Where if I even moved my wrist a quarter of an inch, their identity or their mental well-being just absolutely crumbles. And at that point, I couldn't deal with the responsibility with that. And
that's a predatory relationship. They have it's being a vulnerable predator, and you're now vectoring into the spectrum for borderline personality disorder types of strategies of bonding with people. So it's highly manipulative and it's highly guilt-driven. Pierre, you knew that you were speaking to depressed people, and now I'm bonded with you, so you need to do this and you need to do that, and you need to not say that word, because my father used to say the word that, and you know it's triggering, and your bandana is triggering. And I've been told off for being good looking. See that whole thing? I 5 times now via email.
It's your fault, Richard.
It's my fault.
It's
my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. I even had somebody send me screen captures of my YouTube videos and screen captures of other people's YouTube videos saying, look, he's deliberately being sexy. I'm like, I'm speaking with the face God gave me. I don't have another one. What do you want me to do?
So you literally just said I was born sexy.
Basically.
Nice. I know the pain, my friend.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you
all of these stalkers and obsessive people. I was just born sexy. What can I do about it? Oops.
So boring. So boring.
Wow. Yeah.
What is when people do this voice? What did you say it's called?
Vocal fry.
Yeah, the vocal Kim Kardashian voice.
It's like the Valley Girl from Southern California, but also Marilyn Manson at the same time, which is an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson sings like this, while blonde girls order skinny bitches from overpriced bars in Huntington Beach. Yeah,
ginger latte. I'm going to develop that style of speaking because I think that it is really cool, compelling, and conveys intellectual integrity. From now on, that's the way. Listen, Pierre, I've got one more of these slides that I made. I'm going to put it on the screen right now. Okay. Let's
I love slides. I love slides.
That's the other element of it. It's not just the vocal fry. Did you see the vocal fry?
Yeah.
Like you also have to say, I love it, or I'm really enthusiastic, but with nothing in your voice. So that's so funny.
That's like the Paris Hilton approach. Yeah.
It's just hilarious. Inside, I'm just laughing myself to death.
Just fairly neutral, but you love everything.
So you said before, why do we keep going back if it hurts us? And that feeds into the idea of digital self-harm. When you're obsessed and when you're stalking, it is an obsessive compulsive behavior, the point of which is to resolve that internal conflict and that cognitive dissonance. But it's repetitive and compulsive even when it hurts. In fact, it always hurts, because if you're stalking somebody, if you're stalking them on social media, if you're outside the house trying to see if the lights are on or off, if you're trying to see if the new boyfriend is taller than you or has a nicer ass than you, he does, then that's painful. It's always painful to do this, because it's a negative feedback loop. Eventually, these cyclical thoughts that the person engaged in the obsession of the stalking is trying to escape, they're trying to escape the cyclical thoughts by doubling down on obsessive compulsive behavior, stalking. Eventually, they have to fragment. Eventually, it has to lead either to a total mental breakdown, violence, or a criminal event, like breaking into Madonna's house and saying, I know Madonna secretly wants me here. She told me through the television and through the lyrics of her song, or whatever it is.
Right.
So that's you mentioned the envy issue, the liking issue. Like, why do we like people even when it hurts? That's not part of stalking behavior. That's an integral component of stalking behavior. Yeah. There was a study done on Instagram specifically for younger girls under the age of 14, between the age of 10 and 14, and it found conclusively, the statistics were definite. When these young girls clicked on pictures of older girls who are Instagram models, girls who are 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, that the younger girl rated as being more beautiful than her, she'd click on the picture, double click, give her the little heart, which is also called a like. I think you young people call it a likingness. Is that correct? Is it a like?
Yes, it is a like. I believe it. There's
I
a
believe
double.
it's a like.
I love it. I like it.
It's a love.
It's a double
So
tap. Yeah.
it's a double tap, which is what some of them need. Actually, what happens within the 3 to 4 minutes after they've given that like, or they write a comment that says, "Hey, babe, you look gorgeous," or whatever it is, they actually feel infinitely worse. So I feel good. This girl is pretty. I like it. Oh, babe, you're gorgeous. Kiss, kiss, kiss. They feel good. And then 3, 4 minutes later, the emotional state plunges. Why?
It's
You
so
are
weird.
higher. You are higher in social hierarchy than I am. I am lower in social
But
hierarchy than
but
you are.
why even bother in the first place complimenting if you feel like crap after?
I think it's part of a deliberately provoked, obsessive, compulsive stalker. I think Instagram is training people to be stalkers. I mean, what do we do when we are engaged with somebody on Instagram? We follow them. Dude, you're following me? What the
Hmm.
fuck? You're not watching me. You're not enjoying me. You follow me.
Hmm.
It could be called like tapping on the window or something. Like it's creepy, but they're not hiding the language. Like it's right there. These are people who follow you, which is what a stalker does. If a hunter is stalking a deer to hunt the deer, he is following the deer. It's a stalking behavior, and I believe it's deliberate because ultimately at this lemonade stand we're paid by the minute, which means eyes on page is the ultimate prize. That's the ultimate target to drive engagement. So if I own the platform, I want people following you and asking you crazy questions. I want them demanding your time and your attention. I want them checking in on you every 15 minutes.
Do you
Engagement.
think so? According to the theory, they like the painful desire and the chase of trying to possibly even get this person's attention. Do you think by that person giving them the attention would dilute the amount of stalking, or what do you think would happen if that was the case? If the attention was actually given back?
To the first part of your question, I'd say Sam Vaknin made a very good point about social media when he said it's not addictive, it's conditioning. Conditioning means there's no reward and it's illogical. You just do it because you have been conditioned to do it. So a lot of this is actually totally illogical conditioned behavior, and it is compulsive. You just do it because you feel pain if you don't. You get agitated and anxious if you don't do it. If the celebrity, or if I'm a young girl and the girl I perceive as being older and prettier than me does correspond with me, where that would lead to, I'm not really sure because it's not been tested that way. And I couldn't say that the research indicates it because it's not been done. I suspect you would still feel bad. She's still prettier than me. The ultimate thing is it's about hierarchy. I'm still lower down the hierarchy than she is. And by liking her, I have deferred to her. I have bowed to her and said, you are what I want, but I probably will never have. I think that's the cognitive process. They didn't test for this, but I suspect the cognitive process is, my God, that girl's really pretty. That's awesome. I love pretty girls. I love prettiness. I wish I was pretty, but I never will be. Because the social media usage that this is driving in young girls and in young boys now is creating anorexia. It's creating bulimia. The body dysmorphia in the UK has quintupled in the last 3 years in 10 to 14-year-olds. It's gone up by 5 times in 10 to 14-year-olds. 12-year-olds are showing up in A&E, in emergency departments, in a really bad state where they're fainting, they're passing out, their teeth are loose because they're not eating because of body dysmorphia. And that's because they're ingesting way too many images, altered images, as you and I know, of beautiful people all the time. And it warps perception and it hyper normalizes a standard of beauty that's completely unattainable. So you're always going to feel like a piece of shit. You're always going to feel lower in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
I really need to work on my speech when I go into the schools and explain this to the 14-year-olds. I can't say it leaves you feeling like a piece of shit.
But no, actually, that's way more impactful, which is why I still use that language on my channel. Because if you really Here's the thing: you're not gonna listen to some older person trying to tell you how social
Right.
media is bad if they're like, "Well, if you look at the behaviors over the last 10 years, anorexia has gone quite up. So please prevent yourself from looking at these tainted images of skinny people," sort of a thing. Well, okay.
If you did it in that voice, they'd sit through it for a couple of hours, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I actually had an idea today, a concept that I wanted to make for a video, and it was going to be titled along the lines of "We are the hottest generation that's ever lived," sort of a thing. And the whole concept of that is that that seems to be our driving philosophy and driving values for younger generations and current generations, because with all of the visual images that we're fed every day, everybody is hot. Everybody is sexy, or at least trying to be. All the underage people are trying to be because of whoever's already hot, sort of a deal. So now everybody is literally dictating all of their behaviors and everything that they do day to day just to be hot.
Yeah, absolutely. I've wanted to do something on this for a while because obviously I've been around Spain and British holiday resorts for the last 20 years, longer, it's like 20, 24 years. And I've seen the evolution of young British men. And you walk around Ibiza now, if you walk down the street in Ibiza, it's like 80% of the guys look like out of season swimwear models. If you go to the gym, you can see like this dude has been dieting and training with commitment for years. He's 22. Like, I'm like, look at the condition these guys are in. I'm all for health. I'm all for training. Hit the gym, lift weights, eat well. Fantastic. Live a long life, have a lot of sex, dance, look at sunsets. This is not that. This is not loving life, trying to just enjoy yourself as much. This is obsessive. This is totally obsessive.
Yeah. Well, it just seems like everything that a person does, not like in general, is to aim towards physical attraction, because you know what? There is a price that you get. There's a reward that you definitely tangibly get from being hotter. You can't deny that. When you're hotter, you get more attention, and that's just how it is. And with more attention, you have more sponsors and more eyes on you because you're hot. So it's hard to discredit the idea of being hot. You shouldn't look at being hot as being the main driving force in your life, because there is so many tangible rewards in posting that booty picture and posting you with like a 26 pack sort of a thing and arms the size of the Hulk. And those things are now end goals for most people, no matter what your age is.
That makes me sad that that's the end goal. Like for somebody aged between the age of 18 and 24, the end goal should be sex. The end goal should be to acquire a sexual partner and to have sex. And it isn't. The word on the street is here as I'm talking to people is, probably shouldn't say this on a live stream. Fuck it, I've already started saying it. That apparently what we're having this last 3 years is a lot of girls are complaining that they can't hook up. Is it because the girls are ugly? No, the guys are totally disinterested. Totally disinterested. They're not engaging in like when I was a young man, that's all we were trying to do. Like you'd only go out and drink and have a dance and that. Well, you would do it because that was a laugh as well, but we were trying to have sex and we did. Like it wasn't the whole thing, but it was a big part of it. It makes me sad, the idea that this generation, this younger generation, would try and get themselves in peak physical condition, not to actually enjoy it, but so that strangers on the internet can look at it and wank over them.
Yeah, well, actually, so another layer of what you're saying to that, you get in peak physical condition not to have sex, but to reject sex. You want to be so hot that you are at the top of the hierarchy to the point where you can say no to it. That's where it's at. It's not people want to look hot just so they can, have sex with anybody that they want. They want to get that hot to the point where they just feel so good about themselves that they can just say no to everybody. And that's the strangest thing, actually.
That's conditioning into That's because we've been conditioned into only thinking of hierarchy, only thinking of the superficial, and only thinking in terms of likes. So now we treat other human beings as potential followers. And this is the effect that I mentioned in the Plugged In documentary, where everybody feels like the people who exist online are more important than the people in the environment. But as you've just said, they verifiably are. Because if you get that million followers, you can live off that. If you have a million genuine followers, there's 1,001 ways to monetize that, and you can have money. If you so, what would I do to argue against that? I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
I mean, you literally can't. You either you work some boring job in whatever situation you are, then you see somebody that lacks a personality, that photoshops their images so heavily. They have 100,000 followers, and yet they have this verification mark. They make money off of their sponsorships. They're getting shipped free stuff. They're making their entire living off of just so-called being actually manufacturedly hot, where half of it isn't even real. It's just Facetune and shifting the abs around, sort of a thing. Why would you choose to work a real job when you know that is an option that is actually viable to you too?
Yeah. It's a very difficult proposal now, especially with the way the job market is going, which is probably a good topic for another day. Is like what advice to offer to Gen Zers in this financial market. I mean, this is why I stopped working in the education system, because back in 2008 there was a government incentive that tried to headhunt me after I did the education conference. I can't remember its name right now, but I don't mind naming and shaming them. And they said, your job will be to go in schools and tell these kids that if they get degrees, they will make more money. And I was like, they won't. And they went, no, they will. I was like, I've read the statistics. There's too many graduates. They won't. Look, just do it. We'll pay you well. I was like, I'm not going to lie to a load of children. Get the fuck out of my face. Aim higher. Aim higher. That's who it was. Aim Higher is the British government organization that tried to recruit me, and I just said no.
Yeah, right.
I'm not teaching these kids they're gonna get more highly paid if they get into fucking £60,000 worth of debt by the time they're 21.
Yeah,
the only person who benefits from that is the British government, because they own the student loans company, bastards.
Yeah. Like, meanwhile, you have some girl with her boyfriend walking around, and he's just clicking a button on a phone of her with a cup of coffee. She's making 30 times the amount a college professor would just from that one photo. And it's like, which one would you like? Degree or sip a coffee that the restaurant paid for, and then get 1 million times the amount on top of that, and then you also look like an hourglass, sort of a thing.
Degree? Yes, Scooby, you want a degree?
Yeah,
should we move to the questions?
Let's do that.
I told you we would do this for 40 minutes before we took questions, and it's an hour and 22.
Yeah, that happens, man.
Sorry, guys.
You gotta get used to that by now. So any questions, please type them in the chat box, and we will attempt our best to answer them incorrectly.
Yes. Oh, that would be wonderful. Let's deliberately answer them in a misleading, just the worst life coaching advice you can come up with. This is the way forward.
Say yes to everything.
Say yes. Just do it. Oh, it's wonderful. Do it all. Ladies and gents, if you have questions, if you can make them one sentence long, and please end them in a question mark. Tully Archer has a great question. Why do you always lie about runtime? I'm lying to myself. I think predominantly I have this idea like, oh, let's be sensible, 40 minutes of this.
You really thought 40 minutes, Richard? Half of your videos are 3 hours long, boy. You say the word "the" and you have a novel coming out after 3 hours, dog.
I had my little PowerPoint presentation. I'm like, I only have 4 minutes worth of material on each one of these slides. Oh my God, we're going to run out of stuff to say.
It was 3 pictures that took 40 minutes for all 3. And I'm all for it. I'm here for the whole thing, man.
Now let's look at it from the genetic point of view. No, Richard, let's fucking not look at it from. Right, here we go. Let's see. Why would Tina asks this question? Pierre, have a crack at this.
Okay. Why would someone stalk online for years? You know what? We can actually tie this back down to the idea of purpose. I think that actually having an object of desire, oftentimes it could be anything, but in this particular case, it's a person. It's an end goal. And the reason why you would spend so much effort and time, particularly online, first of all, it's a lot safer online where you don't actually have to worry about hiding in a bush and having a cop pull up on you while you're wearing your balaclava with no pants on, sort of a deal. So now, so so you could do that online with your balaclava with no pants on in the safety of your keyboard, and it's actually it's not safer for the both parties, but it's just there's less risk there. You have that object of desire. It fulfills your need for purpose. It gives you an idea to actually strive for, and you don't really even know what the end goal is, but at least you have no pants on. So,
And that's key. Is there a way out of the feeling of obsession and jealousy? When you felt obsession and jealousy, how did you deal with it, Pierre?
okay, so obsession and jealousy have had two routes. I wanted to ask you actually earlier, was there a time where you were stalking, or were you obsessed with anyone?
I've been obsessed with people.
Yeah.
I don't like what this is doing to my hair. It's giving me a little Elvis
Yeah,
quiff.
me too. I have to like make sure it's in the right.
It's not what I'm going for. I've been obsessed with people post relationship breakups.
Okay.
Stalking, no, is not my scene. My sense of guilt and shame is quite high, and my need for dignity is high, and my need for personal boundaries is high. I was made to go to a boarding school when I was very young, and
Okay.
we were forced to shower and like get
Yeah.
changed together, and it busted all of my sense of privacy. So privacy is like this huge core value for me. Plus, I know people very well. I've been studying humans for a long time. I could probably guess what you're doing from the comfort of my home, and have like a 95% accuracy
Yeah.
rate.
So sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna cop for social media stalking though. I have looked at people's pictures after a relationship online
Mhm.
to the point where I've gone, this is not healthy. This is not making me feel good, and I shouldn't
I
be
think
doing it.
everyone's guilty of that. I think it's almost a normalized behavior at this point. When it
Yeah.
comes to my personal experience with obsession, I could be considered an obsessive person, but with certain things such as learning how to do new things, or like for example, I got an electric unicycle and I've literally been obsessed with this thing ever since I got it, riding it every single day. Where there were times with my lack of personal boundaries, especially with the overuse of psychedelics, it accidentally seeped into chasing people, sort of a thing. There was like a moment in time where I definitely was I really liked this girl in my art class when I was like 19, like pretty much kind of obsessive, and we got along really well, and it wasn't like just straight up rejection from her. Like we definitely got along. So I took that as like, okay, she likes me, so, and then it escalated. I'm not proud of what I'm gonna say, but I showed up to her workplace and with a fucking bouquet of flowers, because also my sense of reality was skewed, not because of the psychedelics, but for example, like rom-coms and like the narrative of the hopeless romantic, with my lack of boundaries and lack of real world understanding, played into that, where it was like, you know what, like she doesn't reject me straight on, so I'm going to show up with a bouquet of flowers at your work. And
Yeah.
then obviously we got married, and we're still married to this day. No,
That's
not really.
beautiful. That's a beautiful story. Who directed that movie?
Yeah, and her name was Albert Einstein. No, and so obviously I got rejected, and that definitely was like, okay, Pierre, get with reality. This is not how you're supposed to interact with people, sort of a
Yeah.
thing. So that obsessive nature is somewhere inside me, and it's been like that. For example, like with the playing cards and stuff, I was so obsessive that I would be literally every single day, dinner with my parents in the morning, right out of bed, obsessively shuffling cards all the time. And it, attributed to like Rubik's Cubes and whatever hobby that I was into. So if you have an obsessive personality or temperament, you have to find a craft, a healthy way to externalize that. You can't put that on people. And that's what I've learned. Hence how I've also dealt with jealousy. People are their own people. And I've just had to work on that and understand like, yo, people have their own space. And I want to have my own space. That's mostly what it is. I want to have my own space. I don't like it when people are jealous over me. I'm not going to do that to you.
Have you ever enjoyed somebody being jealous over you?
No. Actually, that's one of the behaviors in other people that I can't stand, when they purposely try to get you jealous because it shows that you supposedly care. That's something that is such a huge red flag to me that I just can't even begin to deal with.
The last girl I was seeing, she displayed jealousy, and I thought it was cute. And I told her I thought it was cute. And then afterwards I went, that's probably not a really smart thing to do. Like, that's not a smart thing to do. But the feeling, it made me feel wanted. And so I kind of, I understand like, it's a relationship destroyer. Like, if you get with somebody and their tactic is to make you jealous, which I've lived, I had that as a girlfriend 10 years ago who do that. It just killed the relationship because it just made me resent her. And resentment is the ultimate relationship killer. Once you get to resentment, you're fucked. And I was like, this girl doesn't care about how I feel. She's doing this to hurt me. I resent her now. Okay, now the relationship is doomed. But on the flip side of the coin, when this girl, who I think is really hot, was like, I was jealous that you were talking to another girl. I was like, that must mean I'm here on the hierarchy then, right? Doesn't it? If you're jealous, that like this moment, I was just like, what the fuck? What am I thinking? Like, this doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a natural reaction, but I think a lot of people blow that way out of proportion. Well, they'll literally set up situations just to trigger you into jealousy to show that you care. And in my opinion, there's so many other ways to show that you care than to get somebody jealous over it. I mean, like, here's the thing: there are elements of me where I just feel like a slight, that like weird, like, enclosure of the gut feeling that you get, like the moment you get kind of jealous, it's like your stomach diaphragm just does that thing. There are moments where that happens, but I think just through past experiences, I've really learned to detach from that. And I would get it initially, but then I'd be like, you know what? You're your own person. I just admire my own freedom so much that I would not want to impose that on somebody else, sort of a thing.
Yeah. You can learn to enjoy the feelings of jealousy. We'll save that for another podcast. Richard comes out.
Captain, this is all you, man. I'm sitting back.
Captain Cock. You
just said that.
I don't give a fuck. David says, do you think society is broken beyond all hope? I think my mind is
broken. I love it, man.
I don't think society is broken but beyond all hope. I think that this permutation that we have, I agree with Zizek, these are the end times. Like, this cannot continue. But we'll still be here. Humans are definitely staying.
Call it my youthful naivety, but I am far too delusionally optimistic to claim that this is the end times. I do not believe the society is broken forever. I think there is a lot of hope. And I think that it's also, there are moments, I believe, that you have to be really careful when you say stuff like this. So don't quote me on it. Just nail it to your wall and don't stare at it. I think that there is a necessary amount of delusion to give life purpose. I think that there is a necessary amount of hope, which is kind of a delusion. You have to kind of like imagine something better, right, to get through life. And from my experience, I've seen a lot of positive things from the youth, my generation, that gives me a bit of hope when it comes to at least bettering society. I don't think it'll ever be fixed fully, but it'll better it for sure.
I like the idea of having a little bit of delusion. I have a fairly disgusting metaphor for this. Okay. I'm a red pill guy, generally speaking. Like, as far as the Matrix goes, I like to know the truth about what's going on. But then I started listening to a lot of Slavoj Žižek and starting to look at how consumerism has crept into everything. Now, Žižek always said, I want a third pill. Give me the third pill. I don't want a third pill, but when I see those adverts that are for tampons and they show liquid, it's not blood red, it's blue. You know how they always want to show you if something is gross, they'll turn it blue because blue is like a clinical color. It's not gross. Okay. So I don't want a full blue pill. I just want a little bit of that blue liquid that kind of hides the stuff so that you can live life. And I'm like, whenever I think of, you're engaging in like a kind of illusion here, you know that's not the truth of the situation. I always get the image of the blue liquid flowing in the advert just to protect you from.
So you would like blue tampon liquid in pill form. Is that what you're?
Or if I could get a little cup, just a tiny little, just a shot of blue tampon fluid in a cup. What am I saying in a public forum? Pierre, you're supposed to stop me.
So how does this symbolize a Borkin society?
I don't know. David, I felt like we didn't help you at all.
What the fuck?
We did no good here.
Borkin society. It's a blue tampon fluid.
Yep, that I want to drink. If there is a God, I'm sorry.
Let's move on to the next question.
Alrighty, next question.
We can save that for dessert.
The sad thing is that if we are honest, we call stalker people who pursue us who we don't fancy, while if we do, we just date them. Yes, I think that's the point. Is with a stalker type behavior, it would be unrequited. That's where the erotomania comes in. Like, I really want you. Well, that person doesn't really want me, and I need to accept that.
What do you think of the idea of the chase in the current world? Because I feel like the idea of the chase is heavily skewed. It's like either people don't even chase anymore, for one thing, or if it does, then it ends up being stalkerish. Or is that even a thing? I don't even know anymore.
Well, I have always prided myself on this medieval sort of idea of pursuit, of wooing. It's called, Zizek speaks about it sometimes. It's called courtly love, as in a kind of love that would be appropriate to a court of nobility. And of course, it's one of these ancient artifacts that is totally inappropriate in the modern world. You cannot act as a gentleman unless you are with a gentlewoman. A gentlewoman cannot act as a lady unless she is with a gentleman. Nobility is a two-way street. If it's a one-way street, there's a word for that. It's called codependency. It's called fawning. It can't work. And I'm kind of sad because I'm like we've discussed this quite a lot. Both quite romantic in that way, or at least that's our perception of what romance is. Is like I like you. I'm going to tell you I like you, and I'm going to pursue you. And it's going to be done in the light of day, and it's all yang. It's straightforward.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't think that flies now, man. I don't think that's how it works anymore.
I might be in a really unique case, but I will definitely say the idea of the chase hasn't existed in my life recently at all, where it's like you get what you both want immediately in the Netflix world. You pick the movie that you want at that very moment, the song that you very want on Spotify, same with people. Yeah. I don't see the chase sort of thing happening very much. The last time that sort of happened was when I told you this girl decided to just, see me as a friend more than anything. That was the most chase that I've ever kind of put in recent times, where it feels like if there is a chase involved, it actually won't amount to anything. It's actually getting the wrong message.
So yes, like the short answer to that question is it's totally inappropriate to the modern context because nobody really knows what to do with that. Like what is that? And I think I should say, like, myself and Pierre have spoken at length about this type of thing privately. The interesting thing about the dialogues that we have is I'm only 14 years older than you, but because of the rate of culture change from when I was born in 1978, I'm effectively I'm coming from a society that would have normally been like 40 years older than yours. Because of the change, it's just accelerated. So I can ironically say, well, in my day, we would do this. And actually, it really is a totally different thing. And the thing that bothers me, because I've dated over the last 20 years, I've been sexually active, obviously, and I'm seeing the change. I'm in the same dating environment, but it's changing before my eyes. And I'm not the only 41-year-old man saying this. The flow has changed. Like, there was a flow of intimacy that would progress stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and that's gone now. That's gone. And if you try and bring that back, it's bewildering. So you, as you just said, in the Netflix days, you have sex straight away. You have sex 4 or 5 times. Maybe then you take her out for dinner. Like when you eat with somebody, it's like,
Yeah.
Wow, are we really doing this? It's like, do you remember what we were doing to each other last night?
Yeah.
Then you seek intimacy. So you start with texting, then it's nude. So you see the person naked through your phone before you see them naked in real life.
Yeah.
Then you immediately or almost immediately have sex. Mm-hmm. Then you go out for a meal, and then you work to the point where you can hug the person and hold their hand with no sexual intent. Then you've made it. Then you're like, finally, it's like, now the moment of intimacy is finally here.
Paradoxically enough, the weirdest thing I've experienced is, well, obviously that, like, this doesn't even have to be said. The one night stand thing just doesn't turn out to anything. You do this thing, then you feel terrible about yourself. She feels terrible about herself, and you never see each other again. That happens all the time. Mm-hmm. One thing that I've actually noticed within my life, or recently, is that by taking this Netflix route of having sex immediately first and then the intimacy after, I don't know if it's just my experience with my psychological makeup, but there are situations where I feel closer with this person and we still hang out and we feel like we are more comfortable around each other because we already kind of got that out of the way, if that makes sense.
Oh, listen, I'm not one of those people who be like, it was way better. It was way better then. Not everything was better. It's different for me. And it's for me to adapt to the society, not for the society to adapt to me. That's lunacy. That's like a radical leftist SJW fantasy. Everything should be the way I want it. No, you have a right to ask. You have a right to ask, but you're not entitled to receive. If this is the way it is, then it's for me to adapt. And you're right. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because one thing that hasn't changed is that sex is enormously stressful initially for both parties. It's a performance. It's more of a performance in the age of porn, but it was always a performance. Yeah. Once you've done it, then you can relax. Zizek had an idea for this, and his idea was his ideal date would be to take a plastic penis. You bring your robot vagina. We sit in the room. They in the corner go and make it, the sex. You and I, we drink a coffee. We talk about books and films we love. And I was like, shit, that actually sounds like what we're trying to do when we do Netflix sex. Just have sex, okay? Fuck it, just have sex. You can learn how to make each other orgasm properly later. Just do it. Then you sit and have your coffee, discuss your favorite films, whatever you want. So when I first heard him say that, it was like 4 years ago. I was like, that's not a world I relate to. Now, 4 years later, I'm like, that's a world I totally relate to.
Right. Yeah. So is it? I mean, the times have changed quite drastically, but it's strange how this is the case where now you can relate to this, and I'm relating to this in a sense where I'm sitting with somebody now at a coffee shop that I had the thing with the night before.
What's the thing?
Don't
get shy on me. What the hell?
The thing.
Sex, Pierre.
Thing. That thing.
Oh my gosh, we found a shy side to Pierre.
That thing. And so when we fuck.
Is that too much? Horses.
Is that too much? Oops, okay. When me and the lady get down, we sitting at the coffee shop the next day, and I feel a little bit closer to her. You know, we feel a little more comfortable around each other because we've seen each other and did stuff to each other. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think for me, as long as you can get to the point where you do get to sit in the coffee shop and have a conversation, that's the key thing. It's just I don't know. Maybe I'm holding on to ideas that just have no, there's still the romance. Like,
Yeah.
I'm an 80s kid. I'm Generation X. First base, second base, third base. All these British kids were using a baseball term. None of us knew it was from baseball. We thought it was a description for sex because we absorbed it from the American films. All the Americans watching the films go, of course we know what first base, second base, third base is. We fucking didn't. We thought it was sex. But that escalation of intimacy appeals to me. It appeals to me. But that might just be the way, I don't know.
You know what has replaced the escalation? Can we get this comment out of the thing? It's like it's just fucking with my vibe, you know?
Oh, okay. I don't know how to make all comments go away. I can give you a smaller comment. That's all I can do.
Oh, double click the comment. So like click any comment twice. It's okay. Thank you, Marie. Awesome. Okay. So
that was embarrassing. Listen, Grandad. Double click. What do you mean double click? I am bloody clicking. You bloody double click with your spangle.
We in the Netflix age, we get what we want right now. So get that comment removed right now. So what replaced the novelty and the excitement of the escalation of romance is replaced with variety, immediate variety. So
right.
I guess we get the same high from being with a plethora of people immediately. Well, there is a high attached to that that's similar to the high of waiting for that one thing to happen that escalates with that one person. It's different,
right.
But there's a similar type of thing overarching the both.
Yeah, and I don't want to misrepresent. Like when I was 21, I'm from the north of England. When we went abroad and we went to nightclubs, it's not like we were like, "Oh, good evening, fine lady. Oh, let me kiss you on the hand." We would get drunk and we were getting up to stuff. It's very brutal now.
Yeah,
it's very, people. This is going to come out in public anyway because I'd said this at the 21 convention and they're releasing that video at the end of this month. But I relay stories where girls in my recent dating experience have told me what they like sexually before we have kissed.
Right.
So that's going to be in the public domain. I personally found that a bit traumatic. Yeah. I was like, what did you just? Why are you telling me that that's what you want ahead of us even kissing? Like, can't we find that? I sound a bit.
But you know what? I will actually agree with you on that. And I think it's more of the feeling that you are being kind of pressured by hearing that, by saying that it's implying that you are going to do that to her or she's going to do that to you. Yeah. And some people love that, but I think you and me, I'm like, no, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what I like. I don't care what you like.
Well, it was a very commodifying experience. I felt like the sexual intimacy and I felt objectified, which I'm not precious about that. I know that sex requires a degree of objectification, always. That's natural. But I just felt it was very commodifying. Like, you will provide this service to me. And I'm going, I'm not an app. I'm not your favorite porn site. I can't just, what? Dude.
Can you do that helicopter thing with your ankle behind your head again?
What? No, but that happened again and again and again, where girls were saying, this is what I like. And I'm like, all right, well, back in my day, my love, that's something we'd find out down the way.
Yeah. Some people love that. They love being told up front what to do, and they like the pressure that they have to live up to when it happens. I guess I'm just so stubborn that the moment they tell me like what they like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you any of it just because you told me,
Well, but that actually, I think, is quite a natural response because it's very, very pressuring. It's very demanding, and it's something subtly demeaning about that. I mean, if I said to a girl a list of things that I liked before I kissed her, I mean, it's extremely arrogant. It's a hell of an assumption of superior status that I would just think this girl's never going to sleep with me now. If I just announce these are my demands and this is how you will satisfy me, woman.
I think that's what it is. It's actually more entitlement than anything. Just claiming that you are the princess, that you get to lay down, you get to starfish, while I get to do the octopus. Where it's like, okay, I'm just because you asked. No, that's I'm not. No, what makes you think you get everything that you want all the time, other than social media, actually? So
yeah, what is it that makes you Instagram? Yes, of course. I answered my own question. I will find a question here. I
didn't know birds were into that, man. Eagle-eyed, damn.
These eagles, they're nasty.
Talking about an evolution of culture within the birds, man. It's changed.
I think people gave up on asking us questions. Ladies and gentlemen, you can ask us questions. We got into a bit of a thing there.
Yeah.
With internet relationships so prevalent, don't you find we get far closer intellectually first, so that sex just flows once you meet? Good point.
Can I go?
Yes, it's on you, Pierre.
So my last relationship that started off so amazing, but ended up being abusive. But the first 3 months started off like this. I met her when she was living in Australia and I was living in Los Angeles, and we talked every day on the phone, 7 hours a day for a whole month, like every day. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it was a good amount, like half of the day. I would wait for her to get up at her time zone. She'd wait for me to get up at my time zone, and we would be consistently talking. And so, we got to connect with each other through conversation and intellectually before we even saw each other face to face. We maybe even FaceTime twice during this time. So at least we knew, at least it wasn't a catfish. But we got heavily intimate just through the phone for a good amount of time. So then when we did meet up, the sex did flow entirely naturally. Like it was just exactly everything that we expected. However, that could be, I mean, I'm sure the story has gone very wrong for a lot of people. I just got really lucky with the situation. It didn't pan out well later on in the relationship, but just for the sake of that situation, I definitely agree fully.
Yeah, maybe there's a whole side of this that I haven't thought about, which is that the technology actually allows for the first 3 dates to be written off, where you discuss previous relationships, family, I don't know, whatever the first bit of content, like the stuff that's relevant when you're assessing a potential partner for their status. When you're assessing them, the stuff that you cover, it's already covered.
So I have a question to ask you about this. So I believe that social media, the secondary purpose of it is actually a dating resume, where it's like you can see where the status is in this person. You can see who they have, their social proof, and who they've hung out with. You can see the types of people they surround themselves with, and the things that they have accomplished, the things that they own, and all this stuff, where they're literally online dating portfolios where you can know everything about the person that you don't even need the first date in the first place.
Right. That's true. So it actually it accelerates the folderol of going around the houses. I can just see what kind of a person you are. But both of us made a decision based on how small a person's social media following was recently, right? Like I definitely did. When I looked at the girl's Instagram profile, I was like, oh, wonderful. She has 17 followers and only 4 pictures. Thank God she's not some social media obsessed drama queen. Oh my God.
Right. I mean, definitely generalizing on both of our ends, but it's a funny thing to look at, where it's like the less followers she has, she's probably less crazy. But you know how that could turn out too.
There's people building fake social media accounts right now going, okay, less followers, I'll put a second account.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll ask you personally, have you just determined who you wanted to date or whatever just by looking through their social media because of their portfolio that's already there?
I'm afraid I'm guilty of one of the common crimes of people who would identify as being the victims of narcissistic abuse. I'm actually looking for red flags. So if something is developing with somebody, I am looking for red flags, which is I'm trying not to do that. Well, I'm not really in a dating phase anyway, but I'm trying not to do that. But I have scanned, and I'm going. There's this little voice that goes, Richard, what are you doing? You're looking for red flags, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for red flags. Which you shouldn't do. It's not, I don't know. It's not the right thing to do. You should give somebody a chance. You speak to them and
You
hang out with them.
should, but it's like if that's already all out there, it's why not sort of a thing.
I would say this. I wouldn't ever imagine myself dating somebody seriously whose Instagram profile is this and their ass in a thong. And the reason why I couldn't see myself dating them seriously is because I couldn't take them seriously. Like there's been girls around who are like that on social media. I'll be friends with them, and then cool people, nice people, whatever. But I would never consider dating somebody who acted like that online. Never.
What if they were really hot?
Then that's obviously I would, because all my philosophy, all my ideas, my intellect and everything, if she's really hot, just goes out the window.
And you say this as a joke. However,
no, I'm not joking. I'm not being ironic. It would go out the window.
Yes, and I hate myself for this. It's like, why, no matter how much work I put on myself, I'm in the presence of someone I find sexually attractive, and then my brain disappears.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating.
Emily Ratajkowski is a Polish model who was in the
Yeah.
Blurred Lines video. She acts like that. She acts like that on it. Of course, you know her. She acts like that on Instagram. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to go, but she's really hot, to use the Americanism. We would say fit. My brain would go, you should do it because she's really fit. And I go, listen here, I have bloody morals and boundaries. Listen, lad, don't worry about any of that. Do what you want. Anybody would forgive you this sin. They'd give you a pass. You've got my blessing, lad. Yeah. And on you go. And then Scouse Richie would take over and it'd be done.
Yeah, that voice sounds like more like Golem for me, my personal voice. It sounds a little more sinister, and I'm trying to but that's what happens. And I wish I could turn that off, but it's like proportions.
This goes back to my first point, which is we aren't this, and this is why I think my hypothesis, if people look at it, it's actually quite provocative. It's not romantic. What I'm suggesting is that our romance, our ideas, our personalities, our philosophies are as nothing in the face of mighty, mighty hierarchy. And because of the English expression, the American expression is hot, but the English expression is fit, which has a much more Darwinistic overtone. So fit for purpose, survival of the fittest.
Right.
And her genetics are such that I cannot refuse to. And you'd say, but she's not. And I go, look, my brain will compensate. The children will be beautiful and very clever. And I'd come up with some bullshit post hoc philosophy for why it's okay, because hierarchy trumps everything. All your philosophies, all your ideas, everything, hierarchy ultimately trumps everything. And the only way out of that, when you mentioned the hermit in Siberia before, when people are talking about the ideas of spiritual enlightenment and non-attachment, if he had attained in some way, if he was meditating and taking ice baths in the snow when his girlfriend of 13 years left him, perhaps he wouldn't have felt the jealousy. Perhaps he wouldn't have been attached. Maybe. So the only way out of this is through some kind of spiritual evolution. Otherwise, you're still trapped in the material realm.
But how boring would that be, right? Like, you know, Emily Ratajkowski.
Boring and blissful.
Imagine Emily Ratajkowski enters the log cabin, and then you prefer to sit in the ice. You know, that's like
But okay, but I have a counterpoint for you there. I have a
okay.
counterpoint for you there. The ice is guaranteed. If I genuinely prefer the ice, I've won. That's the true attainment. The ice will always be there. She's not going to always be there. The
But maybe,
meditation will always be there. The
but
stars will always be
but
there. The bird song will always be there.
but
The
the
goal
fact
won't.
but the fact that that's temporary also adds a bit of novelty and value because it's like that won't always be there. So maybe I should indulge in one way or another. It sounds really objectifying. The you know what I mean? Like it's
I didn't hear it as objectifying at all. I was saying it from a biological standpoint. I think that that's yeah. I think it's a good point. It's a good point. Like, but that's where suffering comes from. If we're doing Buddhism,
right.
the
That's true.
idea is
Right.
your attachment to the material world. That's where the suffering comes from. Because with that goal, or any beautiful goal, if or any beautiful man who has tons of options, and you recruit them into your life and they become part of your life, it's like taking on an unstable element. A truly beautiful man who every woman desires, a truly beautiful woman that every man desires, and you attach to them sexually, it's an unstable element in your life. I mean, how are you going to, and it's known to cause chaos. We have stories going back pre-biblical times. I mean, the whole Troy, Helen of Troy, who wasn't from Troy, she was from Sparta. This was a beautiful woman who created a war. You know, it's mythological, semi-historical, semi-mythological, but
Yeah.
this is the world we live in. This is how it works.
And that's I think what a lot of people seek is the idea of chaos. I think that's the whole dynamic between the both sexes is like it allows for a decent amount of chaos that we desire in our human existence. It's like this person will give me this while this person gives me this because it generally ends up being super chaotic. And why do we continue entering these situations if we know that there will, even if there's a stable, healthy, loving relationship, there will be chaotic moments and you know that it'll happen and yet you still do it.
Yeah, because as you said, if there was just enlightenment, it would be boring.
Right.
So perhaps what we're looking for is neither Zen Buddhist nor like some Christian ultra mystic detachment. It would be more Taoist. It would be to balance the energies. We need order. We need chaos. You want to be with somebody who is exciting to you, but you want there to be a stable attachment there. I guess. I
Right.
presume.
And I feel like, you know, in the modern world, it's fairly orderly as much as you would think that it isn't. It's like, or at least biologically and based on a survival standpoint, it's pretty orderly. Hence why we're just fucking shit up socially because we're like,
Yeah.
where's the chaos? Give me some more of this. We need it.
There could be something to that, mate. That's actually not a bad hypothesis. Is there's a lack of chaos, and we're actually seeking the release of chaos that normally would have been brought by disease or
Yeah. Right.
war. And you know, I've felt myself craving that chaos. I think I've told
Yeah.
you about it, like wanting to go back to previous periods of my life. It makes no sense. I would be lower in social status by everybody else's judgment, but in my own perception, I might be happier being a nightclub bouncer. And there's a part of me that wants that life again because of the order and because of the peace. It's perhaps it's too much. Also, when people watch The Walking Dead and they loved it when it was well written, I think that also is a group unconscious desire for the apocalypse. We want chaos. We get sick of it. It's too much order. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. But as humans, we're not used to it. It's like, blah, tear it
Yeah.
all down. Let's start again.
Right. Because even sometimes I think, like, okay, say if a collective natural disaster happens, everybody actually has to put aside their differences and to try to at least help each other out. Because you would think during a natural disaster, with how everything's going, everybody's just like, no, this is my boat. No, this is mine. No, no, get away. It's actually the opposite. A lot of people end up helping each other. Like other people will help strangers by jumping into a flooded river, carrying out their dog, child, grandma, or whatever else, while this chaos is happening. And
Mm.
oftentimes, in the face of chaos or extreme danger, is only when we actually unify. And I think that's what kind of people are looking for. It's not so much the chaos, but the unification that comes from that.
I think we can see that in films and in other TV shows as well of the last 10 years. The rise of the eco terrorist, the rise of the super bad guy. He doesn't want to destroy the world. He wants to save it, but he thinks the way to save it is by hurting everybody. How many villains have said
Hmm.
that in the last
Oh
10
yeah,
years?
yeah.
Tons. We will only see the best of humanity when we have pushed humanity
Oh,
to its
that's right.
worst point. I mean, that was a tagline for one of these fucking dumb superhero films. And actually, that Marvel's universe has had at least 3 villains. Thanos is only one of 3 who all had that message. Thanos is an eco warrior. He's trying to restore balance to the universe. He kills half of everybody because I don't remember some bullshit philosophy that didn't make sense, which was you had to reduce the population. So he
Right.
didn't just choose the bad people; he killed everybody at random. But yeah, the eco warrior supervillain has risen up, and we all resonate with that when we watch it on a TV screen or a movie screen because we feel it. It's a reflection of where we're up to unconsciously. So it's kind of like a supervillain's motto: let's tear it all down, because then we will see real goodness. The last Dan Brown movie, I never watched it, with Tom Hanks. I watched the advert that told me what the whole plot was and the end of the movie. He was trying to spread a super virus, I think, to bring goodness back into the modern world.
I just pieced something together. Okay, get ready for this, man.
I'm braced.
The amount of explosions in those superhero movies or in modern movies today in comparison to the amount of explosions in the 60s, 70s, or 80s.
Mm-hmm.
What if the amount of explosions increased in accordance to how much chaos that we were subconsciously fiending for in the modern age, where everything else beforehand was really dialogue based? You had some action movies, explosions, people are fighting, sure, that happens. If you sit through 10 minutes of Transformers, you don't know what the fuck is going on. It just feels like an assault on your brain. And there's no coincidence that that was like a highest selling box office winner for years and years. People wanted to see shit getting blown up for 3 hours straight. There's no
Not,
denying that.
not just shit. Not just shit. New York City. New York City.
Yeah.
It's always New York, because it's that symbol of the peak of Western capitalism. And
Yeah.
that was why the 9/11 attacks, we're
Yeah.
told, that's why they attacked there, we're told, which is nonsense, but never mind, because it was a symbol of the great shaitan, this Western symbol of capitalism, of decadence,
Right.
of finance, and they hit that trade center, that symbol. So
Right.
we love seeing, or we're supposed to love seeing, New York get torn to shreds. I'm sick to death of it. If I
Right.
see another fucking film where New York skyscrapers are being blown up or scratched up or smashed through, I'm going to scream. Like, I never want to see it ever again. I'm so sick of
Yeah.
it.
I don't know how anybody sits through that, but like, okay, I correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably missing like some other plot holes here, but like, for example, if you look at old European films, they're very dialogue based and they're very romantic and they're very based without the explosions, without this theatrical spectacle of people getting shot in the face, you know. And usually these movies came out during a very chaotic time: World War One, World War
Mm,
Two,
mm,
Cold War, Vietnam War, whatever
mhm,
else. It's usually in times of heavy political unrest where there's still communism prevalent in half of Europe, sort of a deal, where they made movies that were almost more, not heartwarming, but a little more grounded in that sense,
mm,
because
mm,
people were looking for a sense of order while their actual lives were chaotic. Now,
mhm,
so much order. Let's watch New York getting torn down for hours.
mm. No, I think that hypothesis has legs. I'm sure some bright film analyst person could say that's almost certainly the case. Almost
Mhm.
certainly. And maybe if people are actually experiencing bombs going off in the real world and are
Right.
traumatized, they don't want to hear it in the cinema. Where we're just a bunch of spoiled brats
Yeah,
living
right.
behind this high wall in our little Western world, and we don't experience any of it, even though it's only happening over there, really. And so we lust for it. But that, so I think that hypothesis does have legs. I think there's a lot to it. I think we're craving a cleansing, a kind of apocalyptic situation. There is an oppression to repetition. There's an oppressiveness to things just being the way they are, non-stop. I mean, we've got another presidential election coming up soon. I'm sick. I physically feel sick. The Brexit situation, it makes me feel nauseous. I'm like, for fuck's sake. I tear it, just smash it all down. This is the beginning of the supervillain. When I do what I do in the future, they'll show this YouTube video and go, "Do you see what the sick fuck was thinking about years ago? Right. He wanted to tear it all down."
Yes, and with our powers combined, Transformers 10,000, PierreXO, and Spartan Life Coach come together for the new global economy.
But we have to smash up a really sedate, not a city, just a nice town in America, where nobody feels that aggression. Like, I think there's an aggression that even Americans feel towards New York. They're like, yeah, smash New York. Yeah. Just do it to some nice place where you don't feel that way.
Richard, look at the composition of our screen right now. This heavily looks like two supervillains in the making, like discussing their diabolical plan in order to take over the world.
Yes. Look, the world must suffer greatly in order to...
Tell me more.
Well, I've had these headphones on for so long that they're actually making the inside of my ears hurt. So I'm sure these poor people must be suffering terribly from the trauma of us speaking at them for so long. What do you think?
Yeah, man. Are you rocking Beats right now? Damn, dude. Those headphones.
I got them free. Yeah, I got them for free, and not as cool as that. The last apartment that I was in, one of the deals was if you sign up for a contract today now in Liverpool, we'll give you this thing that you're clearly going to want because you're not a child, which is for adults, or we'll give you some Beats headphones, which is for students. And I was like, no, I want the headphones. They're very good, you know.
I was going to say they look great, but they're hurting your cochlea, so you don't want to pop that, do you?
Yeah, no, and I've had terrible trouble in my ear region. Now listen here, Pierre.
I'm listening.
You have a video that is going viral right now on your YouTube channel. Could you tell the nice ladies and gentlemen what that's all about?
Oh, that's going to open a whole new discussion, but I'll just leave it out there. It's if you look at my channel under PierreXO, it's basically a long video describing all of the things that I've wanted to say about my race. And I don't attack it in a way that is extremely biased, but I hope anybody watching it has an open mind enough to try to take my perspective in consideration.
I highly recommend this video, folks. It's 40 minutes long. The 40 minutes goes very, very quickly. You'll definitely get some fresh takes on an old subject that's long been debated, but Pierre comes at it with a very fresh point of view. Now, the other thing that you did this week that I was very happy about was you guided me in creating this thing for Instagram so that it didn't look like a unicorn had vomited onto the page. Because I was using beige and on this Instagram thing, and Pierre told me in the nicest way possible, Richard, it's a little busy. Which I was like,
it's a little lot going on.
That's it. So it's code for that's disgusting. But if you guys go to my Instagram, which is instagram.com something Richard Grannon, I've actually made an emotional literacy exercise for you that you can just do by tapping through. Pierre helped me with the color coordination, and he also suggested we use emojis for it, which makes it a little bit more friendly. The course is laid out in a really, really exhaustive way, so there's no misunderstanding. It's specifically for people with CPTSR in mind and the victims of narcissistic abuse. The feedback from it so far is that it's been really good. So if you get a chance, please check that out as well. Is there anything else you'd like these wonderful people to know about, Pierre?
Nope.
Do you eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
I prefer actually just purely peanut butter. The jelly, the fruit taste, the fruit sweetness is a little much for me, you know?
what kind of monster eats a peanut butter sandwich? How do you swallow it?
You know what I do? I take 2 loaves on my hands, and then I with pieces of bread on it, and then I go into the jar like this, and I squeeze the peanut butter in between, and eat it vertically like this. You know, I eat the sandwich vertically, man. You know why? Because I'm an artist.
I'm gonna do this my way. I want to do it my way.
You know what? The social constructs on how to eat a sandwich is heavily oppressive.
It's patriarchal. It's patriarchal.
It's sandwicharchal, and I'm trying to change the face of sandwiches forever.
You just made the roof of my mouth swell in fear at the thought of eating a peanut butter sandwich.
Then again, Richard, you think tampon blue liquid is delicious.
I have no defense. I said it with my own mouth hole. I can't take it back. It's out there now.
Hey, you can put that on the sandwich too. Maybe we should reconcile.
Hey, put it on the sandwich too, kid. Do whatever you gotta do. Do what you gotta do.
Hey.
Yes. Hey. Hey. So on that point, we probably should end this madness.
Let's actually one more thing. Let's announce the plans.
Holy shit! Do you think they're ready?
Yeah, the world takeover thing.
Okay, tell them about the plans.
What are the plans, Richard? Do we have a set plan for this?
Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to go. I spat on my thing. I'm going to go to Prague. Ibiza is over for me now. It's been beautiful here, and I'm going to be going to Prague in the next 2 days. And I will be staying there for a couple of months, and I'll be working with Pierre. We're going to do a separate channel, and we're going to run a podcast, and we're going to do some documentaries, and we're going to be doing lives. And once that is up and running, we will invite everybody to come over there and see which avenues of bizarre psychology, philosophy, history, biology, blah 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 blah, and psychedelics we end up tumbling down chaotically.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the teaser for that.
Yeah, so get your ass out here, boy.
I'm going to be there very soon. It's time for me to leave this place.
And then that was when you blast off like on a jetpack, out of frame. I'm like, you gotta end the stream, Richard. I'd be like,
it'd be super awkward. Super, you just be sat there going, well, gotta go to bed now, guys. So,
hey, yeah. What about the sandwich? Anyways,
what about those sandwiches? Rightio. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Pierre, thank you for coming on. It was a lovely conversation with you.
It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, for your attention, and we both look forward to speaking to you very soon.